All right. So the whole deal with this podcast today was, and it may still work this way, but we had Heather, we're going to talk about Rally in the Valley and all the good and the bad and that stuff, and possibly some about my weekend today at the or weekend last weekend, the High Rocks, Half Rocks in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, but hopefully the problem is, and Beth and I talked about this, we can't like not talk about the elephant in the room first. And
CrossFit Games.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, it's that's what you say when there's a big topic you cannot not talk about. Sorry,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll tell you straight, and I get probably maybe the best way is the way I actually heard about it. I was at work and I was planning to watch everything later, right? Because Thursday morning everything started, and I was
Mhm.
actually really busy. And then my phone had blown up. But I was expected. I expected that as soon as, I would get all these messages and all that stuff about what was going on. So I didn't look at anyone's except Riley's because I knew she knew what I was doing and she wouldn't do any spoilers for me. And then she's like, it was like, yeah, you're not going to believe what happened. And then I actually messaged her back originally and said, well, is it something that you need to tell me or do you not want to tell me so you can like videotape my reaction like on the High Rocks time when the ski ergs didn't work and it was all that. And she's like, no, no, it's not like that. And she told me what happened. She told me that Lazar drowned and I was just blown away. I couldn't believe it. And from that point on, I was just like confused about how to feel about the entire thing, about
Mhm.
whether the game should go on, whether they shouldn't go on, and just all that. So I mean, I don't know how it hit, how you first like. Did you watch it live, Beth?
Well, no, because it happened while I was teaching class. So I actually got a text from Jeff during the class, that said, "You need to call me immediately. Something really bad happened." So then, like, I like stopped the class because I was like, "This is not normal."
Yeah.
And yeah, I called him and he told me that he's like, "I think someone died in the CrossFit Games opening event." And and then, so then I went down the rabbit hole of just trying to find out more information. And at that point, it was still very confusing about what happened. And it was like, it was in the moment because he was watching it live. So, yeah, that's how I found out.
Were you watching Heather or did
No, I was at work and I think I had just like on my lunch break pulled up Instagram or tried to check up on it and just saw all the posts about it. I had to dig to kind of find out what happened. Of course, they had already pulled down like the YouTube video and everything, but yeah, I was pretty blown away that that happened. Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and then the two biggest questions for me became like, do they go on? Should they go on? Should people continue? It was less about the athletes, whether they should keep going or not, because that's such an individual thing. But it was more about should they even keep going? Like, should they be, should the games continue? And I didn't know. I really didn't know. Like, I immediately figured they would because big business is big business. Whether they
Uh-huh.
should or not, I didn't know because it was one of those deals in my head where it's obviously it's terrible and everybody's a mess and there's this and that, but there are people who have dumped their lives into this and are trying to, this might be their only one and only chance. And I don't know. I was just all over the map with it, as I think everybody probably was. And I still don't know what I think was right and what was wrong, but I do know that I've come to the conclusion after watching some of it that I just don't want to watch the rest of it. It just doesn't bring any joy. Like it just is like I can't separate the one thing from the other, and it's like
Yeah.
I just don't want to watch, and so I'm not gonna finish it, and it's not like a rebel stance or it's just like it just
It
isn't.
felt really odd celebrating wins.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I Yeah, again with the games continuing or not, it wasn't really to me a situation of like what's right because I think in a lot of situations that are this traumatic, there isn't really a right. Like no, one isn't right, one isn't wrong. It's just it's a decision that the athletes had to make. And I figured CrossFit again, you know, with dollar signs in the back of their head and, sponsors and stuff, that all this money that's gone out. And, and I do understand too, people have traveled from all across the world, and, they could still want to compete for various reasons. And I understand people that would stay and still compete. And I also understand people that would leave, for various reasons, whether they just emotionally couldn't handle it. And yeah, neither was right to me and neither was wrong necessarily. It was kind of, but yeah, I kind of felt the same way. There wasn't really any winning in this CrossFit Games. Like if you wanted to stay and compete, that's fine. But I mean, um, it was hard to kind of, and even I saw a lot of athletes, even with when they would win, there was more tears than there was celebration. And yeah, I didn't watch any of the games after that. I wasn't really that interested. And I looked up results after it was done. And, it's all kind of, we had a lot of big names missing. And, even a lot of people I'm sure were not performing at their best. Probably a lot of people going through the motions because, I'm here and, I'll honor him and his family this way. But yeah, I don't think the results are really what a lot of people cared about at the end of the day.
No, and one of the parts I did see, like I saw Medeiros right before an event. I don't even know which one it was, but he was just so like broken down right before they're gonna say start. I'm like, there's no way these people are competing at their best. There's no way you're getting to find out who's the fittest. There's no way it came later to me that I after seeing it and I'm not going to come down on CrossFit too much for this because it is a hard decision that yeah it probably shouldn't have happened in my opinion, right? And we still don't have a lot of information about that stuff, but yeah, it probably wasn't the best move, and I don't know if they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish by continuing it.
Yeah. I'm more curious to see now what happens, now that the game is over. And I think there are some athletes who might feel more comfortable speaking more openly about their feelings around the event. Um, and I mean, we're not going to get into speculations and stuff, but I mean, there was some things that were definitely done wrong here within the situation for such a tragedy to happen. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen now with the sport of CrossFit, with the community, with the business of CrossFit, and just, where this goes from here.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think the games will ever be the same again. It won't look the same as it ever has
Mhm.
because responsibility will have to be taken somewhere. Like I can only relate this to my industry, to my like the construction world, and when and these things happen in construction and stuff, and when it does, everything is different. Like things change completely, and when you're dealing with a company like that, like insurance companies are going to demand something be done in order for it to take place again.
Yeah.
And then there'll be, of course, all the legal ramifications. It is what it is. Because, like you say, more and more athletes are pumping out every day, like how they feel about it. And we're not getting a lot of good job, CrossFit. You did the best you could in a bad situation. It's not sounding like that at all from like I haven't heard a single post like that.
No.
Yeah, it's hard to speculate at this point, so we really don't know the truth about what happened. So all we're hearing is speculation. So I find it kind of hard to speak on whether they did the right or wrong thing. I do think that the games will be back next year. I think there'll be a lot of returning athletes, but there might be definitely some big names or other people who choose not to return, and that's their decision to make.
Mhm.
Hopefully,
I
they just put more safety precautions in place for the athletes.
mhm.
The one thing
One
I
of the resounding things, though, that I was hearing from a lot of the bigger name athletes was that there has been a lot of frustrations throughout the years with athlete safety not being a top priority and putting athletes in precarious situations that, we're not really taking care of, and I think some of it is too that these athletes are to some higher ups in the CrossFit community, they view the CrossFit elite athletes as like superior human beings some ways, and oh, they can handle this, and they're just so good at their craft that nothing can't possibly go wrong, and they can handle all these situations. And I think we forget that they're really not, and anything can happen to anybody at any point. And whether it's running a really long event in too hot of weather or putting too many events in one day. And just, I think that this is something where athletes have been trying to speak about it in the past. And it's where it has to come to a situation where, something like this happens before they're really heard. I think that's really what's too bad in this. And I was thinking too about, like you're saying, I think there will be athletes that don't return. Lake Tahoe 2019, to compare it to something not the same, but similar in the Spartan World Championships. And again, when athlete safety was not at the forefront of decision making with that event, and where like 30 or 40% of the field didn't finish the race, and a lot of them ended up in medical due to extreme hypothermia. And there were a lot of athletes after that race who didn't feel like their safety was the number one decision-making factor with Spartan, that they quietly left the sport, and we don't see them in it anymore. And they didn't make big posts about it, and we just haven't seen them since. And because they didn't feel like Spartan was making decisions with their best interests in mind. So I think that will be what happens with this too.
Well, the one
Yeah.
thing I want to say, sorry, go ahead, Heather.
I just said I agree.
Yeah. The one thing I will say for sure is whether the athletes stayed or went, didn't compete, did some and left. Those people, I don't judge at all. Like everybody's doing what they think is right in the moment and figuring it out, and nobody knows what to do and how to handle it because it's not something you ever go through, So nobody knows. So there's no judgment on any of the athletes and anything like that. It's they did their best, and I feel for all of them, and obviously we feel mostly for Lazar's family and his fiance and everybody else who's close to him. And
Mhm.
yeah.
I think it's a situation too where, I mean, I don't know this man. I don't know Lazar, but I got emotional so many times this weekend. And it's like it's the collective community of fitness too, that he represents so much more than, he's not just another athlete. Like we all have been in situations in sport where, like, like we've been within DECA and within Hyrox and Spartan, like you have these communities of people, and you get really close to them, and he's part of a big community, and even the collective bigger community of fitness that we're all part of too. So in a way, like he's one of us in that sense too. So just, although I don't know him personally, there's still that community feeling to it, that again, it could happen to any athlete at any moment, and any one of us. And it was I think it was hard for a lot of people to digest that don't even know him. So,
Yeah. I know
I think it was more of the fact that it definitely should have been prevented. Um, because things like this do happen all the time. We don't hear about as much, but there's plenty of triathlons where athletes die in the swim. Other races, bike events, people are killed. I think it was more of the fact that he didn't get the help that he needed when he needed it, and it wasn't addressed in a timely manner.
from the video, like everything's there. Everything can be seen as to what could have been done and should have been done. And then we're hearing stuff like fans screaming, someone went down, and nobody doing anything about it. Some to the point of a fan diving in and swimming across and being shooed away. Like, so it just raised so many questions. Like why was nothing done? Were there enough guards? Were they actually lifeguards? A lot
I
of stuff.
don't think that they were. I think I saw that they were volunteers. And I'm sure there were some certified lifeguards out there.
Mhm.
But I don't think that everybody was a certified lifeguard.
Well, and that, like, I can understand that there's nothing wrong with having more volunteers out there, right? Like more eyes is great, but
Right.
they gotta do something, and you gotta have somebody. Like the thing that got me and why I questioned it was that were they even lifeguards is I've never seen a lifeguard out without a personal flotation device with them. Like that's like their go-to tool, you know?
Mhm.
And so that was what I questioned. I mean, like someone just a volunteer out on a paddleboard isn't much good unless someone just wants to take a little rest.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I think like
And
the
when you're in distress, you don't really have enough time to swim over to a paddleboard for a rest. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
There'll be many questions to answer. And
Yeah.
yeah. I and like I said, we don't have them. We just wanted to at least acknowledge it. Couldn't hide from it. I don't know how we could do a regular podcast without just mentioning and acting like it didn't happen. Because I mean,
Mhm.
we did a preview thing about it. Like we can't just not, you know, not
Yeah.
say something.
Mhm.
So I think for me, I'm just like gonna be like everybody else and wait and see what happens, wait and see when we get all the information. And other than that, all I can do is just, send all the best to, the whole CrossFit community and Lazar's family and friends and stuff. And that's I think about all you can do,
Hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
then when stuff comes out, hopefully we'll see if we can if there's change made. Hopefully,
I
I
hope at the very least there gets to be more transparency and openness and honesty from CrossFit, and that there's a bit of like some more answers. Anyways, I think there has been none of that so far, and I think that's what people are also begging for right now.
and it's really showing the difference between CrossFit Games and CrossFit, the actual community, and where the
Mhm.
two are definitely not aligned right now.
Yeah.
So I just again when I didn't mention this, but the one thing that keeps coming back to me, and I've heard this a bunch of times in different podcasts I've listened to and interviews I've seen from management across this prior to the games, is that we've been streamlining the company and essentially cutting costs because that's what streamlining means.
Hmm.
And then you run into something where safety was paramount and possibly costs were cut. And I can't out and out say that was what happened, but it is a possibility, and
Hmm.
that's pretty
Mhm.
damning damning thing to go back and look at when, like I said, when investigators and insurance companies go through it and say, so you've been streamlining, what does that mean? That's yeah. At least again, that's how it works in my world. When they say we're streamlining, generally that's when you really have to worry about your safety because they're
Well,
cutting
and
costs.
I mean, it has to be more than that too, because if you're trying to save costs, then maybe add on to every athlete's, these are the things you need to bring to the games. And
Mm.
one of them is like one of those buoys that triathletes tied to them, or maybe they all have to wear life jackets, where now this is added to your list of, you bring all your shoes, you have all this, and then you have to bring this in on your own. If you can't afford it as a company, or you're trying to save costs or whatever, like there were so many other options here. Like it's just not a good excuse, but maybe that's what it was, but so
Anyway,
preventable. Anyways, we could talk circles around how this
yeah,
could have been prevented.
yeah, absolutely. And again, not having
Yeah.
all the information is still kind of puts you in a hole. So
Yeah.
can we do a regular podcast then?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Heather, we're good. Are we okay to like? It's such a
We
downer
are
thing.
good.
It's hard to kind of go on, but
Mhm.
so let's just
Yeah.
act like we're starting now. Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton. Along with me, as always, is the ever expanding exercise entrepreneur Bethany McChesney. I
That's a good
mean,
one.
and it doesn't mean like she's getting bigger. It's like her gym is getting bigger. So I didn't want to be offensive with the ever expanding thing. She's getting pretty jacked up though. She's got obnoxious quads.
I know.
Yeah.
I need her to take some of those sled pulls pushes in our relay race.
I'm trying.
She does one, doesn't she?
I think two.
Too.
Two? Okay.
Mhm.
We've cut down a little bit different where we started doing like two, like I do two, and then Rye does one, and then I do two because the transitions aren't as quick as they used to be when we could do the row and go thing. So
Right.
it's a
Well,
little bit
she
different.
definitely has to take the last one so that I can run after.
I
So
feel you.
that would leave me with doing 4 in a row.
Yeah, I feel you.
So
That last one's tough.
Mhm.
All right. So the real goal for today was to talk Rally in the Valley. That was the whole point. And Heather, you went to Rally in Valley. You did
I
very
did.
well. You won an event, and I'm going to mock
Well,
you on the one you won.
it was not a physical event, but we don't have to say that.
It was going to be one of the ones that I would complain about them actually having.
Hey now, don't take my event away from me.
All right, so will we start right at the beginning? What was event number one?
The first event.
Yeah, how'd you start it?
So we started out with the athlete briefing on Friday night and then went straight to a turf field for the first 2 events Friday night. We weren't told what they were going to be until just before. They were short, like 10-minute workouts on the field. The first one was a farmer's carry to halfway down the field, probably 50 yards or so. And you have to hold water in your mouth and spit it in the cup on the other side of the field, and then run back with your farmer's carry, 40 pounds for females, 60 pounds for males in each hand.
And you had a ruck pack on too.
Um, with a ruck also, yes. And then get another sip or gulp or swig of water and repeat that until you get 16 ounces of water filled to the cup.
That's hilarious.
Uh, I,
Yeah.
I I get the concept, and again, I will reserve judgment for the end. But it was hard. It looked hard, and then you had to take a big sprint at the end after you filled up the cup, right?
Yeah, after you filled up the cup, you had to run down the other half of the field, run around a cone and sprint the 100 yards back.
So overall, what was kind of the feel from that one?
It was a fun like starter just to get points on the board for people. I had different opinions about it. Because I don't know that it was like necessarily equal and fair to all athletes because a lot of people, if you've ever broken your nose before and or have a deviated septum, like you cannot breathe through your nose well. And there were several athletes that I know who had that and they weren't able to really do the event. So it kind of took them, if you get a low score the first event, you're pretty much fighting back the whole rest of the weekend. Um, and it's hard to come back from a 30th place finish to a top 8 if you're trying to qualify for the last event. So I don't think that it was necessarily equally fair for all athletes. But it was fun. I was able to complete it, so it was fun for me because I didn't have any anxieties or panic attacks about it. But it was difficult. You had to keep your heart rate down just to be able to breathe through your nose. If you tried to run with the farmer's carry and the ruck and holding water in your mouth, your heart rate will get up real quickly, and then it's going to be real hard to breathe through your nose. So trying to just balance that was kind of the strategy.
Yeah, it's goofy.
I was just a participant.
Well, yeah, like I said, we'll talk about it later. And then the next event had a bit of a surprise element too.
It did. The next event was also on the field. They took us back into the conference center and just took one heat out at a time. So we did not know what the buy-in was. And it ended up being a blindfolded echo bike with undisclosed calories. So we were blindfolded, had to start with the echo bike. We didn't know for how many calories. And it was just until our judge said that we were good to go. So that was interesting because you don't know whether to push hard if you're close or if you're going to be on that thing for 10 minutes. And then followed by a bear crawl with, we're also still wearing the ruck, bear crawl with pulling a sandbag through, and then lunging with the sandbag, throwing the sandbag, and then just a sprint to the finish.
So the one thing that, and I mean, I got bits and pieces, but the one thing that I think and that I've heard is it seemed, again, events what they are, fairly well organized.
It was very well organized
Okay.
for the most part. We were there very late Friday night. I don't think he realized how long it would take to get all the heats through. So we didn't even leave the field till close to midnight Friday night, and then had to be at the trail run the next morning at 7 a.m.
But that just goes in with the military thing anyway, right?
So yeah, I don't think he wasn't concerned about that at all, but all
No.
the athletes were.
So how far
But
was the bike, do you think?
it was 27 calories. They told us after.
Oh, okay.
27.
Yeah,
That's an interesting number. The same for men and women?
I believe so.
Okay. All right.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's, you know, that's
And I don't know. I have no idea what my time was. I do know I was the first off the bike in my heat. But then I was probably last on finishing the bear crawl. So I kind of lost it in that. But that was a fun little twist and surprise to that event.
all right. So you went after that, you gotta get up in the morning and you do a trail run. How long is a trail run?
7.5 miles.
And you knew that going into it, right?
We did.
All
Yep.
right. No surprises, no craziness on this one?
No, he did say that males and females the leader had to carry the American flag.
Kind of
So
like
kind of like
Go
they
Ruck Games?
did, yep, at Go Ruck Games. So we didn't know for how long. He just said until we see him and he takes it from us. So there was a group of about 5 or 6 girls that probably traded off carrying the flag. And I was kind of at the tail end of that group and never made my way up to carry it. But I still hung on to the back. So it was about 1.5 miles for carrying the flag. And then as soon as he took it, of course, all the girls in front just took off. So, but it was 7.5, roughly, maybe closer to 8-mile trail run. It was a nice little trail run.
All right. And how'd you do in that? Because you've been running a lot lately.
Trying to. I think I finished 8th.
Okay. So that's where you
Yeah.
wanted to be, top 8, because top 8 moves on, right?
Right. Top 8 overall, after all of the events except for the final event. So my goal was to kind of be in the top 10 to 12 for each event. Because you might have some who finish top 5 in one event, but then, in the deadlift, they might be number 1, but in the trail run, they're going to be 30th.
Did you know the scoring system like beforehand?
We did.
And it was out there, and obviously that's been a big complaint before, is these, yeah.
Yeah, that was very
Good for them.
organized. The scores were updated immediately after each event. We could look and see where we were placed overall. So yeah, I was happy with that. It was golf scoring. So first place, you get 1 point, second place, 2 points, and then it's just lowest score over the weekend.
Not my favorite system, but at least it's a system.
Yeah, I think it's a safe one.
Yeah, exactly. It's I would deem it unoffensive.
Yeah.
All right, so you did your trail run. So I thought the memory thing came in on the trail run.
It did.
Okay.
So immediately after, he had told us to pay attention and be observant on the trail run, that there was going to be a memory quiz after. So the reason, which I'm pretty observant anyways, but I will say the only reason that I won this memory event is because I got there early on Thursday and I mountain biked the running route. So I was pretty familiar with the trails, and one of the questions on the memory test was name as many trail names as you can remember. And I knew all the trails that we went on from looking at it when I mountain biked it on Thursday.
See, now I appreciate that because that's
So,
pretty much cheating, and I think that's great. Well done.
I, well,
If you're not
I
cheating, you're not
mean,
trying, right?
If
right?
there's no rules against it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that was going to be a question. I just learned the trails so that I could go ride them. So I didn't know that was going to be a question on the memory test.
So how many events were there on Saturday then? So you had the bike, the memory one that's all
So
put together.
So Saturday we had the trail run and the memory.
Yeah.
They were scored separately, so that's two. And then about an hour after that, we had the row it and throw it, which was a 40-calorie row for women, 50 for men. And then in you're given a 4-minute time cap. You do the calorie row and then as many sandbags over the shoulders as you can get in the 4-minute time cap.
That might have been one of my favorites when I
So,
looked at what the events were. I liked that one.
yeah. So that one was also two separate scores,
Oh, okay.
but you're doing them together. But you were getting a score for your road time and for your sandbags over the shoulder.
So that kind of give you that almost a choice to make. Do I really hammer this row and blow up for the sandbags, or do I pace
Right.
it a little bit and then I can get more? That's all right. That's okay.
Right. Takes a little strategy on
Yeah.
that.
How heavy were the bags?
80 pounds for females and 100 pounds for males.
Oh, I think
Ooh.
I like that. I think
So,
that's right in the
yeah.
proper because that's I know Bethany hates that. That's like terrible. But by this time, Beth, you would have
No.
had to do an 8.5 mile trail run, so it's fair.
Oh.
Uh, uh, it's just like putting one of you over your shoulder. You're okay.
But one of them, like everybody can do that. I'm not sure if I can put an 80-pound ball over my shoulder.
There's only one way
Sure
to
you
find out.
can.
I think so too.
Oh.
As quick as you do the 40s, we could throw another 40 on there.
Oh well, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, in fairness,
Yeah.
I've seen Riley do it with 100 pound. She remember
Okay.
he picked up the 100 pound in the store?
My shoulder.
Well, she picked it up. That's close enough, and it's 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, I could pick it.
I think it was a fair weight.
I think so. I think so. Um, so
It's
I
one of
like,
the floppy ones, actually, right?
Do what? It was sandbags.
Okay.
yeah.
I think that's easier.
Yeah,
I-
so they weren't like slick to hold.
Yeah.
and you can scoop it. Like you can get you can get
Yeah.
your arms underneath it. It's not like a dead
Right.
ball where it's a little harder where you gotta,
Right.
but I would like
Yeah,
to try.
that was a fun one. The short high intensity is not really my strength. Um, so it's fun to, I guess, get out of your comfort zone and push the limits a little bit.
Right? So you had your
Not too fun.
trail run, your memory, your row and go. How'd the row go? Did you kill it?
I think I was top 5 in it. I did 40 calories in a minute 46.
What?
So, and I think that
I don't do a
I
lot of
think
calories
40
on the rower, so it's hard for
calories
me to figure out what
40
that is.
calories is roughly, I think 500 meters is about 35 calories.
Okay.
So it would have probably been in the 130s, high 130, 140
That's a
pace.
fast row. That's a good row. That's a
I wasn't going slow.
good Nice. So you did that. So that one, what's after that one? Because I think was there 3 events on Saturday, I think total?
Yeah. Yeah, actually 2 more. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
already 4 scores on the day. And then we had a long about 3-hour break and then we went to the gym. The first gym event was also a 2-part So 2 separate scores. The first part was 6 burpee box overs and 10 power cleans for 3 rounds. And you had a 5-minute time cap. And then at 5 minutes, you start part 2, which was 15-calorie bike and 20 dumbbell snatches, alternating dumbbell snatches with a 7-minute time cap.
Okay, how heavy were the cleans?
95 pounds for females. I'm not sure the males. Probably 125, 135.
That's not nothing.
No,
No, that's not
I
nothing.
I'm not, I don't do a lot of barbell work, so it wasn't easy for me,
No.
especially paired with burpee box overs. Just I don't do well with fatigue and barbell work.
Well, usually you tag Bethany in to do the burpee box over stuff.
I know. I needed that one to be a partner
That
workout.
would have been a fun relay workout, actually. That would have been a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I like that, but 135, like, and I'll be straight at 135, if it was 135 for me, for men, I can do it, right? But I'm not going to be whipping those off, right? And
Right.
at least, like, yeah, that's,
It might have been 125. I don't know what the guys was.
yeah.
Probably
That's,
125.
and but I'm at least glad it was a clean and not like an overhead snatch, because I still maintain that the overhead snatch is just too high a skill of movement for these things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that,
Definitely.
and then what was the dumbbells?
35 pounds for females, 50 for males.
All right, so those are
So
two.
that one, yeah, I was kind of glad that it was the first part was 2 movements that I'm not good at. And then the second part was 2 movements that I'm good at. So I didn't do too well. I think I placed like 18th in the first part, but then I was like third. I think I got third in the second part.
Yeah,
Um,
I need to convince one of these events to, go light on the barbell, but get really heavy dumbbells.
yeah.
All right, so then you said there's one more event after that one.
Yes, then we stayed at the gym and did an event called Hinge Pinge, and it was a deadlift ladder. So 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and you're doing as many deadlifts as you can with increasing weight each 30 seconds.
You were really looking forward to this one.
I was not looking forward to this one. I have worked a lot towards this one, and I was very happy with my results with it, though.
Well, that's good.
So a 30-pound deadlift PR. So I
Wow.
was happy with that.
Yeah, because they got really quite heavy. I think the men's were up to like 350.
500.
They went up to 500.
The last one was 500, and the last female one was 325.
Wow. Like 500. That, like, I know some of the guys can do that and stuff. I know, like Jack D.
Mhm.
But the thing was, though, you didn't have to hit all of them, right? Like, it was.
Right. You just, yeah, I didn't go up past 255, so I didn't get the 285 or the 325.
Yeah, like if it was me, I wouldn't have tried probably anything over what, I don't know what the men's would have been, but like probably around 385 would have been where I would have said, no,
Mhm.
I'm not even going to try now.
Yeah. And the way that I liked how they scored it. It was just that your total weight moved.
Oh,
Okay, so you could have like hammered
Yeah.
the first one, really light one, and got like a billion reps
Right.
and still beat someone who maybe was more powerful and just got a lot. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
likely, but you still could have got a lot of points that way.
So people who knew that they were probably going to try to make it all the way to that last barbell were probably not killing themselves in the
Mhm.
first few. So you can probably get some more reps on them in the lighter ones. So me knowing I wasn't going that heavy, I knew I had to rep out as many as I could to get the points in the lighter weight ones.
I want to see Carolyn
That makes sense.
this one.
Oh Lord, she would.
this event would be Carolyn Prevo's dream event,
Like she could just
Mhm.
wait and not do anything but the 225. It
and
just
just smash like
hit
I
that one
know.
for 30 seconds and just go, I'm done.
Yeah.
Whip out
Yeah.
30 reps in 30
Definitely.
seconds.
Yeah. It was really fun though with just being in the gym event and there's only one person on like the 500-pound or 325-pound deadlift bar at a time. So you've got 80 other athletes around you, all the judges and volunteers, spectators are there watching. So it was just a really cool atmosphere. Everybody's cheering you on, even though we're like competing against each other. But just in those events, and really all the events all weekend, everybody's cheering for you. A lot of people hit personal best there, just because of the atmosphere and the motivation.
How was the judging?
There really wasn't anything like technical that had to
Yeah.
be judged,
Because sometimes the
I would
deadlifts can get
say.
a little sketchy with judging on deadlifts, especially if people are going really fast at lighter weights.
I mean, I'm I don't think they were being too picky about that.
Okay.
I didn't notice like anybody not doing good reps. I don't think anybody got called for no rep. I think if you were close enough, then it counted.
All right. All right. We'll leave it at that because I don't
But
video evidence.
yeah, I mean, there were no complaints. I didn't hear one comment about
Okay.
anybody having bad reps.
That's good. You would have heard of it. If it was bad, if the judging was bad, you guys would have heard about it,
Yeah.
right? There would have been
No,
whispers behind the scenes there.
no,
Someone,
I didn't hear any comments about judging.
that's good. That's good. And so by this time, what time are you at night now? Like, because that's a lot.
We actually got done early Saturday night, probably around six, between 6 and 7. So we were able to go out to dinner after, and kind of chill for a little bit. So it was a lot all packed in, but we also started very early and went all day. So
All right. So get sleep Sunday morning. And when is the cutoffs here? Because you gotta like, do you have one more event or two more events before the cutoff?
yeah, we have one more event Sunday morning before the cutoff for the final event.
What one's that?
So that was Wet Karen.
Oh, by the way, great name.
Yeah.
Riley hates that name, but really interesting event. And I didn't like the idea in the beginning, but I'm coming around on it.
It was fun. So we started with a 50-meter swim, and then you get out of the pool and you have to do Karen, which is 150 wall balls. But anytime that you break, pause, drop the ball, anything, any break in reps, you had to swim 50 meters until you complete the 150 wall balls.
And what was it? Was it 14 pounds for 9 feet?
Yes. Yeah. And they were strict about that, getting it. There was like tape on the wall, and they said that you had to get it over the tape. And I did hear people say that they were calling no reps if you hit the tape.
Did anyone do it unbroken?
Lauren
Oh, yeah.
Rentala.
Lauren Rentala did it unbroken, and there was one guy who did it unbroken. And then several other people just had one break.
Yeah. Rye just asked if you got a no rep, did you have to go swim? But I'm like, no, I don't believe it was that way.
No, they were going to do that. And then he decided not to do that way because we would have been there all day. um, People got no rep and had to go swim. So he changed that to, if you get a no rep, just keep going. But if you do break or drop the ball, you have to swim.
And keep in mind, we all know how slippery those things get just at like a high rocks or a regular event just from sweat. But you guys are all coming out of the pool, and then when you're dropping them, it's landing on a wet deck. Like those things would have been slick as grease.
They did have towels for us.
Yeah.
So that was nice. But yes, they were still got pretty wet.
So I say that I'm getting okay with it, but I'm like, I still don't know. It is kind of it's a big penalty for breaking. A 50-meter swim is a big penalty for breaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like 5 push-ups. It's a lot. And Wow. Hey, it really rewards the people who are good at wall balls and really punishes the people who aren't.
Right. And
Yeah.
I went into that event. That was the final event before the cut, and I was in eighth place. So, and the cut was the top eight. So going into it, I was pretty nervous, had a lot of pressure on me. Um, but I did pretty well. So I was
How many
happy with
breaks?
it. I took two breaks. I probably could have done it with one break. But we were lined up in order of like our seed, and I did the first 90 unbroken, and the two people next to me were the ninth and 10th place. And they had already gone to swim another time, or maybe two other times. So I just kind of played it safe from there. I was like, oh, 90 sounds good. That's more than I've ever done before.
Did you want to
Um,
go to hit the 100 unbroken though?
I did think about that, and I could have, but I got in my head when I saw that they were like going for like their second swim. I was like, oh, I got this, so I'll just take it easy now.
Mhm.
Um, so I did 90, 40, 20. Yeah, I probably could have definitely done it with just one break, but there wasn't really any need to.
I probably would have swam a full 5K by the end of that thing.
I would have.
Would have been like one. Ah, crap. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so you got in, and then so you make it. You're in the top eight, um, and then you're off to the final. And what was our very final event?
Final event was mountain bike ride. So that's what I was really looking forward to and hoping to get to. Since I do have experience in that, and I knew that most of the other athletes likely did not, although don't know the athletes all on a personal level, so they could mountain bike for all that I know. Um, but I knew I had a pretty good chance with that. But of course, it wasn't just going to be like, hey, we're racing a 10K mountain bike. Of course, he's got to throw some other things in there. um, so the event was we had to run. Well, at start, we flipped over a piece of paper and it had a 4-digit code on it. So all of our bikes were locked up about half a mile away. So we had to flip over our card and it had our code on it. And we had to run to our bikes and remember that code to unlock our bike. And there was somebody, one of the volunteers on a bike riding along with us, just yelling out numbers.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's like, so for like half a mile, we're running, just like repeating these numbers. That's all I did the whole time was repeat these numbers in my
Did
head.
anybody forget?
No.
No.
I
Were people
was,
like yelling their numbers out loud?
no, thank goodness. Just
Oh,
the random guy yelling out random numbers,
oh my
trying
gosh,
to mess
that's
us all
so
up.
funny.
So we had to unlock our bike and then start the loop. It ended up being a 3-mile loop, which we didn't know ahead of time. Some of us had heard ahead of time, but it was not officially announced to us how far it would be. It was a 3 miles, and we come back. We got off our bikes and we did the 80-pound for females, 100-pound for males, front carry for about 50 yards. Then we get back on our bikes and do the 3-mile loop again. And then after we finish, as soon as we finish and we stop our time, it is then a 3-minute max thrusters with barbell, 95 pounds for females. I don't know the male weight. I would assume again 125,
135,
maybe
yeah.
135.
I think it's normal. I think
Um,
it's 95, 135 often.
okay. Um, but we didn't have to start, if we were 5 minutes ahead of the next person, coming in on the mountain bike, then we could stand there for those 5 minutes before we officially crossed the finish line
Oh,
to
okay.
start our 3-minute clock.
Mm.
Which I assume you did.
We did. Me and Corinna actually came in at the same time, but I told her that I was not going to pass her.
Mm.
Are you still there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Okay. My phone is down to 10%, so it just like was cutting off. We came in at the same time, but I, of course, just told her to go ahead. So we kind of argued over who was going to start thrusters first. We both wanted a break, but I let her rest also, and I just got a little bit longer rest until the next. I don't even think I waited till the next. We were pretty far ahead. There were only 3 of us who had experience with mountain biking. Me, Corinna, and Katie Simonson. So Katie finished first, and then me and Corinna came in together.
Katie's strong as hell.
She is, yeah. So, finishing with max thrusters was not what I wanted to finish with, but I was happy just to be able to do the mountain bike and get to that event. So it was a lot of fun.
So final all shook out. You ended up
6th overall.
so that's not too shabby.
Yeah.
Not too shabby. And
1 point from 5th. So if I would have passed Corinna and not been so nice. But 5th, 6th, I mean, what's the difference? It's not a podium spot. So, and they did pay podium winners on the podium. So they did receive their prize earnings at that time.
And good, obviously good for them. That was awesome. That's well done. All right.
Yeah.
So all in all, Beth, you want to give this a review all in all, see what you think? Because I know
I
a
mean,
lot of this is new to
this
you. You
doesn't
haven't
sound
heard
like
too
an event that I would be very good at.
much.
It sounds really cool.
You're a good mountain biker.
But it would be fun.
Oh man.
I mean, there were a lot of, it wasn't like all your top elite athletes there. There were so many people there who didn't have experience in the movements, that were just pushing themselves outside of their comfort zone. So that was another thing that I really liked.
Like you've said, like the multi-event over the weekend. Like I would love to do something like that. All I keep hearing is like these heavy things, heavy, 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 and like 150 wall balls and like I don't know. It sounds like there's a lot of things that I don't know if I could do. Like I don't know if I can do a 95-pound thruster. I don't think I can.
Well, that's
Sure you
thrustering
can.
yourself almost.
That's what?
That's like doing a thruster with you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could do one, but for 3 minutes, no.
You'd be
I
like,
don't know.
So
right?
you take last place like I did, and you be happy with it.
Yes.
Did you
And
get
that's
last on
fair.
the thrusters?
But like you said, I think
Well, it was
there's
out of the top 8, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think there's things though where, like you said, I think in the environment, I could probably do a lot more than when I'm in my gym by myself. Like, oh, this weight's too heavy. I'm gonna drop down. Like, I do think I would probably surprise myself in some of it, and I think it sounds really fun. Like, I like these events. A lot of them sound, except for the run and the bike, they're short and fast and intense, and that's really fun too sometimes. So, because a lot of our workouts and our races are long grind. So it sounds super fun. And I love the creativity in them and, the little twists and stuff that makes it even that much more memorable. So it sounds like a blast. I would probably suck at it.
I disagree with that. But
I think you might struggle here and there, but I don't think you're coming last.
No.
No. No.
Definitely not. I just like that it was very low skill. I think the highest skills were the power cleans and the thrusters. Anytime you throw a barbell in, I guess. But low skill, pretty much anybody can come do it. So the variety of it is just what I liked about it.
Yeah. really a lot of creativity with the events themselves. I like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So here's my quick take. It's fucking goofy as shit. Like memory tests and water spitting and blindfolds and screaming numbers at people and all that stuff. And that's goofy as shit. And I always complain about that. But I'm going to tell you, here's why I'm okay with it. Because that's what they promised. It's completely said they were going to do it. They did what was promised. And so it's okay. It was just like if when they had the Go Ruck games, if they had said we're going to have wrestling and combat with rubber knives, it would have been fine. But they didn't. They want to be all surprising. So I don't mind the surprises they had because they said we're going to have goofy surprises. They had goofy surprises. It wasn't anything that was going to hurt anybody or put anybody out. So I'm okay with it. And from everybody I've talked to, the athletes all seem to have fun. And
Definitely.
you know,
Uh-huh.
what I've heard too is that it was decently organized. The point system made sense, and they paid out money on the spot. So hey,
Mhm.
good for them. I'm down with it. I'm with Bethel. I don't know if it's for me because, I don't like surprises like that.
There weren't too many surprises. We pretty much knew what
Mhm.
every event was going to be.
Mhm.
I
Little
put it this
twists
way.
that are like memory games and stuff. That's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Put it this way. I would have went for like a funsy, but I would never have gone with kind of the I want to try to do really well in my head because then I would be freaked out when they
yeah.
did something. Oh, well, now you got to remember this. I'd be like, oh, fuck your hat. So yeah, for a funsy, it did sound like a good time. But
Yeah.
before we screwed up and I had to delete a bunch of stuff, what were you just saying, Beth, about you'd like to do one of these at your gym?
Oh, I think something like this would be so fun to do like within a gym, like within my gym, over a weekend and then you have multiple events and stuff. So yeah, it's given me some interesting ideas too that, maybe we could do within just, in a smaller scale, around the town, like some different things like that.
And they don't have a ton of people, right? Like, what is it? You said 80 total, so 40 men, 40 women?
Yeah, there were a lot of people who did not show up. But I think that's
Really?
what was on the start list was 40 and 40. I
I mean,
don't know the final count, but there were a lot who did not show up.
Hmm.
and we just talked to the Warrior Wolf people who do a contest, a competition that's multiple events over a weekend.
Uh-huh.
And they only do like 20 men, 20 women.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, you can make a small one of these and have a blast with it.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so I think he actually just announced that next year they've already opened registration, which I have mixed opinions about. And it's going to be limited to 32 each.
So the
Um,
accommodations, do you stay there? How does that work?
you find your own accommodations.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. He did have block off some rooms, I guess, or get like a discount at the local hotel, um,
Mhm.
that a lot of people stayed at.
so what's the deal with this stuff? Like you said, they just released or opened up to registration, but as far as I know, they don't have a date yet.
He did put a date out today. It will be Labor Day weekend next year. So August, the very last
Long
weekend of
weekend.
August. Yeah, but
That's good and bad.
yeah, and people don't, because like I have a friend here who was really wanting to go do it, and I'm like, well, they just opened registration, it's limited, like you have to register, and she's like, well, we usually go to the beach on Labor Day weekend, but sometimes we go the weekend after. So it's like people don't have plans a year out in advance, and for you to be limiting it and forcing them to make a decision a year in advance is really hard. Because they're not going to make beach plans a year in advance. She's not going to know
Right.
what weekend they're going to the beach.
Unless,
Um,
yeah, and then I mean, unless you have a wait list, and then people have to declare if they're coming or not, y- like a significant amount of time out, and then you can start going down the wait list so people can still fill those spots.
right. There will definitely be a wait list. But it's hard to say, like, we'll just go ahead and register, and then if you have to cancel, then cancel, because you're taking somebody else's spot. I don't know if they're going to offer refunds. It's not cheap. I don't remember paying that much last year, but it is. I looked today and it was like 325, I think it was, to register.
I mean,
Which
it's a
he did
good.
have a lot of cool swag.
Yeah, you guys got like
But
names
yeah.
on your shirts and everything, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
so if I try to compare it to like other stuff, like you think like say a World's Toughest Mudder, which you would consider a full weekend event. I mean, that's like $500. Even
Right.
a toughest has got to be in that neighborhood. I mean, let's be honest, a regular High Rocks is at least $150,
Right.
right? And that's 1
Right.
hour. So I
So
mean,
for a 3-day event. Mm-hmm.
I think
it
Spartan Worlds was around 300.
yeah. So here's the thing. It's a lot, but it's not out of the spectrum of what it should be, I think. And especially they're giving away cash prizes. You're getting a lot of good swag. You're going to pools, you're going to gyms, it's a lot, but I think it's okay.
I agree.
You know,
Some
like
people might not, but I do think that he should. I mean, what's the difference in opening registration right now or opening it in January?
Yeah.
I think he just wants to do it now while it's like fresh in everybody's head and everybody's excited about it, kind of coming off of the high
For
from the
sure.
weekend.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard to make plans a year in advance. Like for me, I travel for work. I could be living in Utah in a year. I don't know if I'd be able to get back to it.
Mhm.
Um, so it's kind of hard to plan a year out, but I guess if you want to do it, you got to be on it. He opened 20 spots up on Sunday yesterday, and they filled up in 3 minutes.
well, I'm
So
gonna say this, good for them.
So then the price is not wrong.
No, 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 it's not. And good for
oh
them.
no, the people who want to do it will definitely pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll definitely be registering again. He does have spots saved for the top 8 from this past year. So yeah, I'll be registering for it, and I do hope to go back. But like I said, I don't even know where I will be living at that time next year.
Just like High Rocks, more of this auto qualifier shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Beth, you got
But
to be writing this down here. You're seeing how much he's charging when you can make one of these events, right?
I know. I'm
That's
thinking
just
about
like
it
that's
here.
like $1,000 Canadian.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
it's similar to, you see all these CrossFit competitions all over, and I always find local ones, and I'm like, oh, that would be so fun to do. So I go look at the workouts, but then they have one workout that's got like bar muscle ups in it or handstand walking. And I'm like, that completely takes me out of even participating.
Yeah.
So I just like these different events, which I also need to look into that Warrior Wolf Challenge, but these different events that are just multiple events, even if it's just one day, but that are low skilled movements. I'm not going to spend 2 years learning how to do toes to bar and handstand walking. Like I'd rather just improve my overall fitness than work on these little skills that take so much time to nail down.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Heather, if you're interested in the Warrior Wolf Challenge, we will have our podcast episode out next week.
Good. I can't wait to
There's lots
listen.
of
I
information
I
on it.
will definitely have to look into it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and honestly, for me, I think I remember the timing not quite working well, but I would go for the event. If the timing worked, I would go for the event. It looks very
Mhm.
cool, and they sound like pretty good. So, all right, overall, Heather, this will be it for the to talk about Rally in the Valley. Overall grade, what would you give it?
Uh, Definitely A. I mean, I had no negatives about it the whole weekend.
Hmm.
Everything was positive for me. I enjoyed all of the programming for it, the workouts, just the community and the atmosphere. I did like it being a smaller event, because we could have everybody's cheering you on. Most of the events are like 8 to 10 people going at a time. So everybody else is just around you, cheering you on. So I did like the small atmosphere for that. It was very well organized. There were a ton of judges and volunteers out there for everything. I had no negatives on the weekend.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that. You can't. That's just awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, all right. So let's move along here. Our segment now. We've been Ask Bethany. Bethany has a question. Well, Bethany has a question to answer, I guess. So, Beth,
Yeah.
what are we answering here?
Okay. So the first question was about creatine. Lots of mixed messages about this, but it feels like it's the current it thing for women. Any thoughts? And also about issues, like gut issues, including GI distress and potentially having gas when you start taking it. So, creatine, although creatine, when I was in university 20 years ago, the my sports nutrition professor, his whole PhD thesis and everything was on creatine, and it was one of the most tested supplements on the market back then, and it still is today. So it's been put through the ringer as far as testing is concerned, and creatine is still one of the supplements where we do find there is performance benefits to it and health benefits to it. And still 20 years later, we're still hearing the same thing. Back then too, and again, when I was in high school, when creatine was kind of coming out and being talked about again amongst athletes, the mentality around creatine was that it caused people to bulk or puff up or retain water. But a lot of that, though, again, was just like the overuse of creatine and continuous hyperdosing and oversaturation of it. We've fine-tuned it now a little bit more with dosage and everything with creatine, but it's definitely a supplement where please do not overlook this as a possibility to help with your overall health, not even just from a performance standpoint, but with brain health as well. And for women too, especially because creatine, again, and creatine isn't a foreign substance to our bodies. So we create this in our system, but then we also can consume it in meat products. So especially if you're a vegetarian, this is something that you really need to look into. But we do create this within the muscle. Most of it is in the muscle. Some of it is also in other tissues like the liver and kidneys, but it is used during intense muscle contractions. So anything that's strength and power related, but they also do find benefits within endurance activity. So any sort of muscle contraction above like your normal day-to-day stuff, we use creatine within the muscle contraction. And women, again, why I'm saying women, please don't ignore this. Women produce 70 to 80% less creatine than men do. So supplementing with it is, I would say, relatively speaking, then maybe even more important. And on average, women consume less animal meat products than men do. So, and I think even more so on a health perspective and a mental health perspective, they're finding recently that creatine helps with mental health because it actually has a pretty significant inflammatory reduction effect on the brain itself. So, women postpartum, even during phases of their cycle when they're dealing with mood dysregulation, it helps to stabilize a lot of that. And some even really interesting studies have coming out where they're finding that if you hypersaturate the system, so hyperdose with creatine within the first 7 days following a concussion, your concussion recovery is significantly reduced by creatine itself because of the anti-inflammatory properties on the brain. So if you're someone who struggles with either mood regulation, depressive episodes, creatine could have a pretty significant impact on that. So don't underestimate the mental health perspectives of using creatine as well. So if you've never taken creatine before, the recommended protocol would be 6 to 7 days of a saturation period. So where you take more so 15 to 20 grams a day to help saturate the system for the first 6 to 7 days. And then after that, you have a maintenance protocol of 5 grams a day, 3 to 5 grams a day for women, maybe a little bit higher for men. And then you would just, and with creatine too, again, it is a supplement where you want to be pretty consistent with it, because it's one of those ones where you want to have a saturation within the system. But again, with most supplements, again, a professor that I follow very closely too, he always says be super diligent and religious about supplements, and then forget about them for a little bit, and then be super diligent, because we also can create a bit of a tolerance to things too. So it's okay if you're super strict for 3 months, maybe forget about it for a week, super strict. But creatine is one of those ones that make it a part of your everyday. Find a way to habit stack, put it in something that you have anyways. Put it in your smoothie in the morning. You can mix it with water. It's flavorless. It's also so highly regulated and tested that there isn't really, as far as my understanding, really bad products of it on the market. So get a good brand and you're probably fine. It's not overly expensive. So yeah, it's definitely one that if you're not taking, please consider taking it. So not many side effects typically to creatine. Sometimes within that first week, I've had clients who will get a headache. And I'm not sure if some of this has to do with the anti-inflammatory brain effects. I don't know. And then sometimes people have reported gas, but what I would say is try to stick it out through that saturation period and then kind of see what happens after that.
I just started taking creatine, what, like 2 months ago? Well, yeah, 2 months ago. And I am the same epic pooper I was to begin with. It's not gotten any different. No more
Glad to know.
gassing, no more poop, all the same.
Mhm.
Just the same. It's been good. I've had positive effects, or at least it seems so to me. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say it's definitely worth it. And like you say, cheap. It's not
Yeah,
expensive.
no.
So I'm
I also just started taking creatine. I know I've talked to Bethany about it before, but I was one of those women who, as a bigger athlete, I don't want to gain any more weight. I don't want any more water weight. I don't want any more muscle weight. I don't want any more weight on me.
Mhm.
And so I was one of those that was kind of skeptical about taking it because I knew that it would hold more water weight. And I've been taking it probably 4 to 5 weeks now. And I have actually lost weight since I've started taking it. So I have not had any effects of gaining weight. I haven't had any side effects from it. So I feel like my recovery has been good. I mean, I did a full 3 days of intense activity, and I barely had any muscle soreness after. So I think it definitely is good for recovery, for sure.
and like I said, no bad side effects either for me. I actually had two people this weekend tell me I looked slimmer than normal, which isn't very difficult, but that's fine. But it's still, positive's a positive. I'll take it.
Mhm.
All right. Beth, I think we should do the next part of that question next time because we've been on here a long time.
Okay.
And
Good,
Heather's dogs are demanding attention.
good.
They're wanting their dinner. Their dinner time was an hour ago at 6 o'clock.
All right,
Mhm.
Beth, why don't you take us home?
That's all right.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for listening. Thanks, Heather, for being on today. And we did have a long episode, but we had a lot of things to talk about. So until next time, everyone, take care and keep crushing it.